Guys, I just want you to know I'm always going to be doing straight speaker reviews, straight speaker comparisons, something you're not going to get on my channel. I hope you're not going to be disappointed. You're not going to get gimmicks. I am not going to do gimmicks just to get extra views, just to get extra comments. I will be sticking with the straight speaker reviews. So it's the Sony XB23 versus the Sony XB33. These are both new speakers. These both came out May 2020. It's really about the Sony XB23, and I figured probably people want to hear it against the Sony XB33. If indeed you are a Sony fanboy, you'll probably be thinking something between these two speakers. It's either going to be between these two or between the Sony XB33 and the Sony XB43. I've done that in another video. All three speakers have something in common, and they are X-balanced drivers. What does that mean? Well, this means they are not the normal old-fashioned circular shape. These are now kind of pointy, half diamond, ovally type shape. In other words, instead of just having a circle there, they've elongated it. So X-balance simply means it's a bit longer. There's more surface area, but without having to increase the size of the speaker, because they've gone wider rather than, you know, up and down bigger. Is that really better? Well, they say because that increases the area of the diaphragm, you get more sound pressure level and less distortion, which sounds brilliant. And they also say, as part of this overall X-balance system, less excursion. Less excursion. That's what everybody wants. But hang on a sec, it's not what everybody wants. Actually, people love to look at the passive radiators on the side and see them moving up and down and find it quite exciting. So Sony sat there thinking, I've got a great idea. Let's take away the basic excursion. And people are sitting there thinking, I've got no excursion on my speaker. Maybe they did their market research. I'm thinking, probably a huge mistake. That was something they didn't need to do. They didn't need to design a new driver system to reduce excursion. People like excursion. XB33, XB23, XB43 are all party connect. They can all connect together, but you need same model speakers to connect in stereo, but they can connect in party mode. But remember, not backwards compatible. Won't connect to your older Sony speakers. So other headline comparisons between these two speakers and the specs of the XB23. Well, price. You're going to want to know price. Probably not that much in it. When this speaker first came out, the XB33 was around 150 quid. Not long ago. Now easily going for £120. Obviously, that's straight on Amazon. That's not even finding a deal. About £90 on Amazon, XB23. Obviously, I'm in the UK. These are sterling amounts. But 30 quid between them, I think that's probably not much of a difference, but because at the end of the comparison, you may see what I'm trying to get at. So £120, £90. Now, there's a big difference in the battery. So we have a pair of 2,700 milliamp hour batteries in the XB33. But it's running at 7.4 volts, so that means more instantaneous power. Not great battery for a speaker that size. We have a single 2,700 milliamp hour battery in here, and it's running at 3.7 volts. The problem with Sony is we don't really know where we are, because I'm going to say it, Volkswagen style, they're faking their battery tests. And what I mean by that is, it's not stick it at maximum, stick it at 66%, go play, stop, out of battery. What they do is reduce the volume, it's going longer, reduce the volume. So it's hard, because it's so slow, they used to do a hard battery mode, play, 20%. You knew it's suddenly gone to 20% and you were really annoyed. Now it's smooth. You don't, until there's a bit more significance in the volume change, you don't perceive it. 66% volume. I'm getting 2 hours before it goes into low battery mode, and then I can get over 13 hours. XB23, 66%, I can play 40 minutes at actual 66%. Then it goes to low battery mode, and if you're happy with low battery mode, 6 hours, 45 minutes. But maximum volume, and here is the kicker, maximum volume, I can play this at maximum volume for 30 minutes. Maybe enough for some people. A lot of people, it probably still won't be enough, but 30 minutes at true maximum volume, and then carry on playing 6 hours, 80 minutes in low battery mode. Sony XB23 maximum volume, basically 0. I'm going to be kind and say 5 minutes, because you probably won't perceive the first 5 minutes. As soon as you go to maximum, it's already doing that slow drain, that slow roll off in the battery saving department. and you'll end up with 4 hours 38 minutes, but it won't be anything like maximum volume. So to me, that's faking it. If you never actually can play that for at least 15 minutes, 15 minutes, I was not asking a lot, is it? Play this for 15 minutes of maximum volume, I'd say, all right, fair enough, speaker that size. Although, who else is doing that? Only Sony that I'm aware, to such an extent, to be honest. I'm going to cut to the chase with this at the end of this comparison and go more into detail if you make it to the end of this speaker comparison. But for me, that is a huge issue with the Sony XB23, if indeed you're going to play at maximum volume. Now, what else is different? Well, of course, both Sony, you both get decent codec, LDAC codec, AAC codecs. You've got high-end codecs. Don't always get that in a £90 speaker. So, you know, that's one up for Sony then. They're both partly connects. They both do true wireless stereo pairing. Bear in mind, it has to be same model speaker. With USB-C, we're in the modern age USB-C connector. And the modern age means they both have no auxiliary input. They've thrown away the auxiliary inputs. You can use the Sony XB33 as a power bank. You can't use the XB23 as a power bank. I don't know what the actual power ratings are, if indeed you find that worthwhile knowing, because Sony don't publish them. Other people publish them and just plain lie about them. Only, well, to their credit, not actually faking it. They're just not telling you what the power rating is. They used to, don't anymore. 1100 grams, 580 grams. This is half the weight of the XB33. If you've got arthritis and you're going to hold them a lot, that may be a deal breaker. You'll go for the Sony XB23. Another up for Sony is PX7. Means 30 minutes in water, up to 1.5 meters. But the big deal is you drop them in the pool, they float. They don't just float, they float with the drivers up. You can actually leave them in the pool and play them. Not many speakers, even when they say IPX7, can actually be used in water because the drivers will be down or they just get soggy and you've got to wait 2 hours for them to dry out. Usable, in water, float. That's a plus. So these speakers are 20 Hz to 20 kHz. Well, according to Sony, every speaker they've ever made, 20 Hz to 20 kHz. Of course, completely meaningless. We need to know plus or minus 3 decibels, or it's completely meaningless. As I've said before, and I'll say it again, you might as well fake it all the way. Go 1 Hz to 40 billion kHz. You know, I mean, it's as much logic to that as saying 20 Hz to 20 kHz. They don't play. You can't hear a 20 Hz to 20 kHz. These speakers. They both have 2 woofers, they both have 2 passive radiators on the side. However, well, that's clearly meant to be played front on. Bluetooth, see, it actually works. Bluetooth now off. That's clearly meant to be played on axis, facing you, stereo speakers. We're not talking mono JBL, we are talking stereo. However, they have cutouts now on the bottom of the XB23. I don't know if they had them on the XB22. I never had it, to be honest, but I'm saying there are cutouts clearly designed to be played that way around. You can play it that way around. It will sit there, and you have both the drivers. I have to say, having tried it both ways, I actually prefer it that way. It just sounds more right. I don't know if it's because it's getting more benefit, obviously, of being on a solid, flat part of the surface, whereas it's not very flat that way round. So all my comparisons will be with the Sony upright, where it sounds better, and I think it's designed to be played that way anyway. It's all about the Sony XB23. I'm going to show you its frequency response.
Sony XB23 clear audio mode, the default mode. 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%, 70%, 80%, 90%, 100%. Zoom in. So we've got good bass adjustment at the lower volumes. 30%, big bass. 40% still there. 50% still there. 60%, it's already leveling out. At 70%, the bass peak is below the high end. So to me, already 70%, you've lost your bass. 80%, you can see it's getting worse and worse. 90%, it's clearly tailed right off. 100%, the roll-off is from 300 Hertz. So it is a little speaker, but still, early bass roll-off. Clearly no bass at maximum volume. But hang on a sec, Sony have an EQ in their app. We can sort that bass out, can't we, in the app? So here's the Sony clear audio mode, 80%, maximum volume, 100%. So don't be stingy. Plus 10 on the bass, 80%, and oh, well, we've blown plus 10, and we've got all of, what, 1 decibel, 1.5 decibels more in the bass. And it's cost us some in the mids. Sony's default tuning these days seem to be, let's not bother too much with the mids and go to plus 10. And that's the thing about the Sony EQ. It's not straight frequency bands. It's relative. So a bit more in the bass means you're losing out elsewhere. Here it's in the mids. Okay, well, you know, a bit of a dollop at maximum then. Ooh, same thing, but even less of a difference. So basically, you turn off clear audio, you go from 0 to 10 on the bass, and you've got all of, well, basically not a lot. The moral is, when it comes to the XB23, using the EQ in the app is pretty much pointless. If you're going to be kind of looking at the frequency response, let's give it its sort of sweet spot, 60%, 64, 74, not too bad, plus or minus 5 dB. The bass, around 65 hertz. Bear in mind, that's not that loud, and that's at 60%. As I say, that's being kind.
Yeah, that frequency response is reminding me a lot of the Flip 5. The Flip 5 has a hard limit on that bass, and you go over a certain, I think about 70%, your bass is gone. A lot of people like the Flip 5. I like them as a pair. However, at maximum volume, very shrill. Looking like we're losing the bass again. However, I will say, talking about the Flip 5, it looks more balanced. 60% and below looks quite balanced. So get straight into it. Test. Well, 50% on the XB33 is basically, that comes as a shock to you. It came as a shock to me. 50% in LUFS, in perceived loudness, 50% on the XB33, as scientifically measured, is 40% on the XB23. That was a shocker. Have a listen.
Abrázame toda la noche, no nos queda mucho tiempo más. No quiero perder lo que queda. Seguimos siempre la pasión y confiamos solo en el amor. Yeah. No quiero perder lo que queda. Y más allá, a través de la gran oscuridad, hasta que me convierta en rayos. Y más allá, a través de la gran oscuridad. Y más
At these lower volumes, Sony XB23 holding its own against the XB33. XB23 actually has a bigger upper bass, 100 Hz to around 300 Hz. Around here is stronger on the XB23 than the 33. But the XB33, even at the bass peaks, 82 Hz, nothing in it. Slightly better on the XB23. But XB23 cannot do lower bass, 60 Hz, 50 Hz, still around 15 decibels down than on the XB33.
Bit of a shocker. Against, a speaker that's not too bad, not too shabby. XB33, not the greatest speaker in the world. It's not pound for pound world champion like the Motion Plus, but a decent enough speaker with a reasonable bass, but not that much in it at 50% volume. In fact, the big difference is you've got more of a wallop in the bass. You've got a more deep and rounded extension to the bass on the Sony XB33, whereas this is a much thinner sound. But overall, I could call this a draw because it's a cheaper speaker, and that thinner sound may add up for you as a bit more clarity. Some people do find the XB33 a bit muddy. It's got very forward mids, to a certain extent makes it a bit muddy. So maybe that frequency response, didn't tell me the whole story. So let's go past its sweet spot. Clearly was about 60%. Let's go 76% on the XB33, which is then about 70% on the XB23. Still playing a bit louder in terms of LUFS.
Honey, I'm a perfect 10. What does perfect even mean? Is there even such a thing? Ooh. Can we switch up all the rules and imagine a utopia? Darling, I'm just so fed up with these expectations. They keep weighing me down. My heart is begging me to get the hell out of my head. I'm gonna live inside the upside down for a minute and pretend. Honey, I'm a perfect 10. Whoa, whoa. Honey, I'm a perfect 10. Whoa, whoa. And if I say it enough, it gets ingrained in my head, and I start to see. Honey, I'm a perfect 10. 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 Whoa. Honey, I'm a perfect 10. Honey, I'm a perfect 10. Disgusted with myself, and I'm disgusted with the way we're told to have a certain face, a certain way, because we aren't pixels on a screen. No, we're human.
I'm walking alone, the streets are empty. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for me. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. I need you to listen, I need you to hear, and don't show.
Around the 70% volume, XB23 is past its sweet spot. It can no longer hold its own. It's now a thin sound, and the XB33 killing it in bass, even around 100 Hz, nearly 2 decibels up on the XB23. And then in the deeper bass, around 60 Hz, it's 20 decibels up on the XB23. So that tells the story. The XB23 doesn't do deep bass. And past 60%, no noticeable bass really at all. No longer holding sway either in the upper bass, 100 Hz to 300 Hz, which it does quite well at lower volumes.
Well, yeah, that was more in line with what I was expecting. You go past its sweet spot. It may still be, it's fine for podcasts. That may be what you want it for. Fine for speech. But when you're listening to music and you want to pump it up a little bit, yes, well, it's not a great listen. Not a great listen for me. You may be of a different opinion, but we've got bass. We haven't got bass. It's basically the difference. So probably not looking good for maximum volume either, is it? So let's have a look. Let's have a listen. Maximum volume.
They want you when you leave, so I cut or watch it bleed. I guess we're more appealing as illusions on a screen, and that's what hurts the most. Being loved for what's unknown. Open up, you're guaranteed to get your heart broke. We wanna feel so special, and that's why you love me. I made you feel like singing, and then ask you to leave. Why do we do the things we do? We hurt the ones we love. been so damn selfish. I hurt your feelings. Time is putting all its blame on me. And I was thinking, why do we do the things we do? We hurt the ones we love, it's sad, it's true. I wrote this song, it's just like you. Pretty and sad, refining cute. Maybe I'm a liar, but I try. And maybe we were meant to be unkind. I write you letters all the time. They play with demons in my mind.
Wow. Well, another shocker to me. So technically, the Sony XB23 plays louder than the XB33. When I'm measuring in LUFS, there's a clear difference, 15.2 versus 16. Remember, the nearer you get to 0, the louder. So minus 15.2 is louder than minus 16. If I measure the RMS, well, then they're about the same. Even measuring the peak, it was higher. Now, that's all because it's very strong between 2 kilohertz and 9 kilohertz on the XB23 at maximum volume. And that also makes it a very hard listen. So it goes louder, but it's a very different listen. That's not a pleasant listen. That's torture to me at maximum volume. That's still a pleasant listen at maximum volume. So the differences were not what I was expecting. As loud or louder, depending on how you measure it, and much clearer, depending on how you want to describe it, but I would describe it as shrill and ear-piercing, to be honest with you. Whereas this is a pleasant listen all the way through. But at lower volumes, if you are playing at lower volumes, that's as good as a buy as the XB33. It just doesn't have as much bass extension, but the bass is there, 50% and below, 60% and below. But then there are going to be other options. You're not paying 20 quid or 50 quid. If that was from China, that'd be 50 quid. So the real test is down the line, if I play against some of the 50 quid Chinese speakers, is there still reason to buy it other than, well, it does float with the drivers up. And that may be reason enough for you to buy it. You're going to be in a swimming pool. You want it floating because all your mates will think it's great fun. Now, I did mention the extraordinary, terrible, faked battery life on the Sony XB23. I'm saying faked. I don't want to get sued. My personal opinion, and probably not faked, it's just not in the small print saying if you play this at maximum volume, it'll last for about a minute. So if they'd done that and had a huge disclaimer, I'd say fair enough, but they're not saying that. And anyone buying this and listening to people like me doing maximum volume tests and thinking that tells them what's going to happen at maximum volume, it's not true. Let me explain to you what happens when you play this at maximum volume.
So the big problem with playing the XB23 at maximum volume is it basically doesn't play at maximum volume. So here's my recording playing at maximum volume. Make it a bit easier to see. As it starts getting narrower, that means it's reducing in volume. And you can see it's reducing maximum volume right from the start. That first couple of minutes, average power, minus 17.1. Bear in mind, the nearer you get to 0, the louder it is. Just 3 minutes later, minus 17.3. Okay, not a lot, but it's reducing immediately. And as you can see, it's reducing all the way. By the time you hit, let's say 45 minutes, minus 22. We're already 5 decibels down. And that's the major problem with the XB23 is you get no time to play it at maximum volume. From the moment you start playing and leave it on maximum volume, it's going to start reducing that actual overall volume. Obviously saving battery life. But the idea that you can play this speaker at maximum volume, even though I'm doing a maximum volume test, is that in the real life, it's just going to get quieter and quieter.
And there is the problem playing this at maximum volume, even if you'd wanted to, it's very shrill. So this is the low volume speaker. If you're playing at low volumes, it's reasonably well balanced. I would probably, from memory, say it's probably more balanced at low volumes than the Flip 5, although I'd probably have to do that test down the road to be absolutely sure. But absolutely fine, 60% and below. But once you get over that, you hit that bass limit and the bass roll off, you've got problems. You've got big problems. So to me, the clear winner of these is the XB23, unless you're buying this for podcasts. Then that's going to be muddy and that's going to be clear. So anyway, that's my comparison between Sony XB23, Sony XB33. Hope you got something out of my video, and I thank you for watching.